Welcome to the Pause and Effect podcast, where we delve deep into the world of animal welfare, health, and behavior. I'm Dr. Kara, your host and a dedicated veterinarian, sharing the knowledge from professionals and communicating current information to impact the many lives that we are responsible for. Today we have a special guest joining us, Lisa Button from Funda Nenja, an organization committed to transforming communities through innovative approaches to animal welfare. Together, we'll explore the pressing issues surrounding pet care, community dynamics, and the long-term vision of animal welfare. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, share with fellow pet lovers, and leave your comments below. And of course, make sure to follow us for more insightful discussions like this one. Lisa Button, welcome.
Thanks, Kara.
Thank you so much for being here today and for agreeing to chat about Funda Nenja. Am I saying it correctly?
Funda Nenja, yes.
Funda Nenja.
That's correct.
And what is the meaning? Zulu.
It's isiZulu for learning with the dog.
Learning with the dog.
Yeah.
So where did this all start out? I believe it's been going since 2009, is that correct?
Yeah, so Adrian Olivier is the founding member. She was volunteering at a Mpopomeni dog show that the SPCA had put on.
Okay.
And she, in doing the whole dog show, she realized that there was a need for kids to learn how to handle their dogs, how to train their dogs, just general animal welfare. And she spoke to a few kids and said, would you like to come next Friday afternoon for a few classes on how to train your dogs? And they said, yes, they'd love to. So they came and they sort of set up a holiday workshop where every Friday during those school holidays, the kids would come with their dogs. And there was about 5 or 6 kids that came with their dogs the first Friday, the next Friday it doubled, the next Friday it doubled again.
Wow.
And by the end of the school holidays, the kids said, please don't stop, we want to continue with this.
So this wasn't a long-term project set up from the start. This is literally like a little pilot.
Holiday project.
Wow.
Correct.
And it took off.
And the numbers just grew and grew and grew. And then Adrian had to obviously, get more volunteers to help. And within no time at all, we were up to sort of 70, 80, 90 numbers. So it grew very quickly.
So I wanted to go back to the early sort of establishing Funda Nenja, but give us a little landscape as to what it looks like today. Today, I mean, this is like 100 children pitching up on a Friday.
Friday afternoon, yes.
So once a week. This is quite a commitment.
Yeah. Not in school holidays, though. We take a break in the school holidays now. We need a break.
Everybody takes a break.
Yes. Okay. So, and also a lot of the kids go to grandparents or uncles or aunts and they're not in the community anymore. So the numbers do sort of dwindle in the holidays. So we just close for holidays. But basically we started off on a school ground. The school was Amatule Primary School. And they gave us the school playing fields to operate off, and also one of the classrooms as an office.
Okay.
So we'll probably get into it a bit further, but we've got an animal welfare education officer who works on the property for 4 to 5 days a week, depending on her schedule. The dog school took place on the field, and then from there we moved to a different school about 2-3 years ago. And we've recently just done our 3rd move, which we're hoping is our final move. Long story short, we were having issues with the previous school that were wanting more money and saying we weren't doing enough things and, the usual story. So we're now on municipal land, so we hopefully won't have any more of those kind of issues. It's the sports stadium in Mpopomeni.
Oh, wow.
So we've got lovely grounds to operate from. We've also got a nice little office block with 2 offices. It's a newly built building, so everything's working well.
And everyone's really excited about the move.
Very excited, yeah. So although we've moved areas, obviously kids who were close to our previous venue are now further away, but we've moved to a different area. I suppose as the crow flies, it was probably only 1.5 k's apart. But it's more accessible to some kids now on the other side that weren't that close to our previous venue. So you win some, you lose some.
So in terms of you're talking about the area of people that you attract, I mean, how far are some of the kids traveling?
Some of them walk up to 5 kilometers each way.
Wow.
So they rush home after school, change their clothes, get their dog, and they walk 5 k's to get to us.
And is there an age where you say you actually minimum age requirement? Or
we try not to. We don't want to turn any kids away, but some kids we've had as young as 5-6 years old and some of them, the dogs are bigger than the kid, so they physically can't manage the dog.
Yeah.
And others, the attention span at that age is not much you can teach them about animal welfare. But what we do is we have somebody who can sort of just guide them on the sideline and say, you're a little bit young to start in the classes, but this is what you can practice at home, and maybe come next week with an older brother or sister or somebody to help you. So we don't like turning people away. Obviously, the more kids we can educate, the better.
And are they all kids, or do you get adults joining?
90% are children. We have, on odd occasion, had an adult. Some adults do accompany their children as well from time to time. It's not often. But yeah, the adults, they generally come, they get the basic education, and then they don't always, stay for too long. But they come for a couple of weeks, sometimes a few months. But it's 99% children.
And most of these are returning children. I mean,
Yes.
this is, they go, they see the benefits, and they return.
Correct.
So they advance.
Correct. What we do is we take in new children on the first Friday of every month. So they get registered. We give them a registration form prior to them joining.
So is that indemnity as well
Yes,
as really?
it's a form they take home to their parents or their grannies or whoever the caregivers are at home. They fill in all the information, including the owner of the dog, because sometimes they don't bring their own dog.
Okay.
They bring a neighbour's dog or a granny's dog. And we've had cases where they've actually stolen a dog to bring to Funda Nenja. And we get an angry owner at the gate saying, my dog is somewhere here. His child took it without asking.
It's learning.
So we've explained to the kids they can't just take somebody's dog. So we do need to get a form signed. So it's basically their address details, contact numbers, the owner's details of the dog's details, and then an indemnity at the end. Then on the first Friday of every month, they bring that form with them. We then put them onto the system. It all gets captured onto our database. And then they get allocated a class. So
there are various classes running?
Yes. Classes start with Puppy 1, which is our little puppies, which is generally from about 5-6 weeks old and upwards. We do have a pre-puppy class. So people come with, I suppose a 5-week-old would rather go in the pre-puppy, but we don't normally have that many that young. So 6, 7, 8 weeks old. They go into Puppy 1. Then we have Puppy 2, which is your slightly older puppies. Then Adult 1 is for... You've got two Adult 1 classes. So one is sort of your entry level as when they join, and then others are dogs that have moved up through the program in sort of a second Adult 1 class. Then we go to Adult 2. I can't remember all the steps, but we've got a social club, which is like a club class they can stay in forever. So we've got a senior class. We've got our Super Dog Club.
Wow.
Super Dog Club.
So these would be competing in little agility shows and...
Well, not really competing. They have little in-class competitions where... So going back again, each class has an instructor who is a youngster from the community, normally one that's been through the program themselves with their own dog. And then we identify them when they get to the top class, because each month they get promoted to the next class. And then we identify kids in the top class that have sort of leadership skills, good handling skills. And then we approach them and say, would you like to become an intern to learn how to become an instructor?
Wow.
And then we'll pair them with one of our senior instructors, and they'll learn how to become an instructor themselves. Then each class is assessed at the end of the month. And they put through a very basic little test to see if they can sit the dog down, stay, do a little recall, that kind of thing, depending on which class they're in. And then they get promoted to the next class the following month, and they get a little rosette and a little prize for being promoted. And then once they get to the top class, they can stay there forever. They don't have to leave. There's no sort of limit to how long they can be
always
in
learn.
Funda Nenja.
Keep learning.
And then the class instructors will bring in some agility equipment so they can sort of basic stuff. We don't do anything where the dogs can get hurt or, can be abused. Little hula hoops, dog walks, weave poles, a few little jumps, things like that.
So truly a development program from dogs to the people who are involved in this.
Correct. Because, those instructors are learning
from
from
early on.
That's it, right from
incredible.
the beginning.
And it's self-driven in terms of its sustainability. Before we continue, let's address a critical aspect of pet care, gastric health. Introducing UltraPet's special diet Gastric Liquid Care, formulated to aid pets during recovery from gastrointestinal issues. This versatile product boasts a balanced formulation with 31% protein, 9% fat, and 3% fiber, replenishing key nutrients essential for pets recovering from gastric issues. Featuring a delicious chicken flavor, it is highly palatable, encouraging pets to eat during recovery. I've had great success using this both with tube feeding and syringe feeding patients. What sets this liquid care apart is its comprehensive approach to pet health, with added prebiotics for digestive health and omega-3 and 6 for immune support. It is a holistic solution for upset stomachs. UltraPet's Gastric Liquid Care comes in a 750-gram pack, providing an optimal solution for pets in need. Give it a try and witness the difference it makes to your pet's recovery. Your companions will thank you, and you'll appreciate UltraPet's dedication to pet health. Now let's return to our conversation. I'm desperate to know, obviously as a vet, I imagine 100 owners arriving with dogs, and I just think, oh my goodness, this is so risky in terms of spread of disease, rabies, and so on. But you have this covered, don't you? So explain to me how your measures in place in terms of managing those risks.
Okay. So every Friday afternoon while the dog school is in action, we have a veterinarian who comes out every Friday, and she sets up a little vet clinic. We do obviously free rabies vaccinations. We do 5-in-1 vaccinations where we charge 50 Rand a dog, and we explain to them they've got to come back for the sets of 3 vaccines. We do try and explain to them that they must keep their young puppies away from other puppies, but in a township setup, it's impossible. I mean, you have puppies and dogs coming through, fences. None of them are always contained. So she does that. She does deworming. We do tick and flea control. It's basically any primary veterinary needs are attended to on Friday afternoons.
So including illness. So if one of the handlers, can I call them a handler?
Yes.
Notices their dog's not doing very well, that's a great opportunity to have a vet checkup.
Correct. And then our veterinarian will give them some medication to take home, sort of for basic stuff. If there is a dog that is very ill, then we will admit it into one of either the SPCA or the Midlands Veterinary Clinic in Hawick.
Oh, wow.
For treatment.
So from the perspective, because I'm interested in the various areas I want to talk about today, but from how things were in terms of how dogs were kept and cared for in 2009 to today, give us a little insight into the kind of problems that you came across, whether it's from a nutritional perspective or housing or even how they were physically treated, because you kind of in your head have an idea that there was a lot of fear around dogs and maybe some abuse, because I think that's generalizing, but
misconceptions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how were things before and how are things now?
Very different. Very, very different. I can remember I joined Funda Nenja not in the very beginning. I joined about 8 years ago, and when I joined, I remember something that stood out for me is kids who were joining Funda Nenja for the first time arrived with their dog or their puppy, and when you asked what the name was, they looked at you strangely like, a name? Why would I name this dog? It was just an object. And we do not see that anymore.
Wow.
We never, ever have a child arrive with a nameless dog, even if it's a simple name like Puppy, which is
common,
very common. Puppy, Danger, Spotty when it's got no spots. But that stood out for me is that kids are now acknowledging that this is a sentient being and it does need a name. It's not just an object. The handling, definitely the handling has improved. With care. We're seeing less dogs coming with ropes and wire or string as collars and leads. They've understood that those are inhumane ways of walking their dog. And then the handling, people used to be afraid of their dogs. We had kids that would join and the puppy would be trying to play with them and they'd be screaming and trying to, get the dog away from them, not understanding that it's a playful
normal
puppy.
Behavior.
It's not aggressive. Okay. So that's definitely changed. And then something that always makes us realized the difference that we've made is when we speak to Kevin LaRue, who's the head of the rabies department at Allerton in Pietermaritzburg. He's a huge Funda Nenja fan. He has been forever. And he, obviously in his work, he's traveled throughout South Africa, throughout Africa, and he's been to pretty much every single township there is in Africa. And he said when he comes to Mpopomeni, there is a vast difference in the condition of the dogs, the way the people treat their dogs, the way they view their dogs. He said, you see people walking on the streets, walking their dogs on lead. He said, you do not get that anywhere else in the country. And he said he knows without a doubt that it is Funda Nenja's influence that has caused that change. So that for us really hits home, because we don't get to compare the dogs in Mpopomeni to the others. Correct.
You're too busy doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But do you have people approaching you saying, can we set up the same initiative somewhere else? Do you have that? Or I mean, I'm
100%.
assuming that would be great, but obviously I think people
Yes.
appreciate the...
Yeah, we did. We've over the last few years, we've had a lot of people say, we need Funda Nenja here, we need Funda Nenja there. But we obviously don't have the manpower and the resources to spread ourselves that far. So we did, year before last, feels like it was last year, year before last, we did a seminar, 2-day seminar for people who wanted to start up similar organizations in their areas. So we had people from all over the country, and we took them out to Funda Nenja on the Friday afternoon where they could see everything in action. And then the Saturday, we had like a conference at a conference venue. We had, I think there were 11 different speakers or different talks. So each one of us from Funda Nenja, as well as some outside people who came in. Kevin LaRue was one of them. And people were allowed to ask questions. It was a full day of Q&A and presentation. So those people took home, all the information they needed to start up another organization. We've had one that started up in Johannesburg, but she's struggling on her own, and she was battling with a venue. But we have had another successful one here in Hillcrest, who's doing good work. So, even if it's a handful of dogs that are being helped, it's a win.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, and you've got a good model for sort of, but give people an insight into what it takes to maintain this kind of organization, because this is not just, kids pitching up and a few instructors.
No.
So give us a bit of insight into the setup.
So we have, our staff consists of myself, Adrian, the founding member, Nomonde, who's our animal welfare education officer, who's currently completing a course to become an inspector, so that'll give her a lot more power, and a social worker. I haven't even touched on the social welfare side yet. And as I said, Nomonde works 5 days a week. We have a driver as well who drives the ladies around. So going back a step again, when the children join Funda Nenja, the information gets put onto the database, and that information is used by both our animal welfare officer and our social welfare officer. So they will take that information and do home visits. So Nomonde will check on the welfare of the dogs, and she'll make sure that they're not on short chains, that they have food, water, shelter, etc., and have had medical care if they need it, and she pushes for the sterilization. And we do give them a free bag of dog food if they bring their dogs for sterilization, which is a free service to them as well. And then Zintle, our social worker, will check on the social needs of the families, so the children and their extended families. Because it wasn't long after we'd started Funda Nenja that we realized you can't fix the dog if you don't fix the child. So you can't expect a child who's being abused at home to come with his dog and act lovingly and treat the dog with empathy and compassion when he's not receiving that himself. So that's when our social welfare project started, and Zintle will work with the families and help them with their needs. She holds workshops. She's recently held a parenting workshop on how parents can deal with children, how they can deal with problem children. She does workshops on drug and alcohol abuse. So our social welfare program is very strong. We do feeding schemes. We take huge, big vegetable packs out to families.
And this is a very poor community.
Very poor community. Well, it
ranges, unemployment rates.
Yes, it ranges from your very, very poor, sort of mud house living with 4 or 5 people in a tiny little mud hut, to sort of your middle class. And there's a few more affluent people in Mpopmeni. So it's a wide range, but I would say the majority of them are below the income, the baseline income bracket.
So this is a massive support to them. And
Correct.
I mean, this is a big community effort in terms of having that support.
Yeah, because there's very little social welfare support in Mpopmeni at the moment. And it was so nice to get feedback when we came back from the holidays in December, and when January came back. And our first couple of social welfare visits, the people welcomed Zintli and said, "Oh, we have missed you so much." And then the kids all came running and said, "Oh, our dogs need food, when can we come and buy food?" Because we also run a little pop-up shop on a Friday afternoon where they can buy dog food, collars and leads, blankets, bowls, toys, tick and flea shampoo, all those kind of things, and kennels, dog houses.
So really educating sort of basic needs of both children and their dogs.
Correct.
And I mean, that stems over to other aspects from educational perspective.
Yes.
So tap into that.
Yeah. And then wherever we see a need, we sort of, if there's a hole, we plug it. We've recently seen a lot of dogs with biliary. So we've just in the process now of drawing up a new flyer in isiZulu explaining biliary, what symptoms to look for, and what it is, because there's also misconceptions like there is with rabies and parvo and all the other diseases.
And all in the native language
all in the
rather
native
than...
language, with pictures as well. So even the kids, if they can't necessarily read it all, the pictures hopefully will tell the story.
Sort of common signs of illness and whatnot.
And also not to leave it, because a lot of the time they wait for us to come on a Friday. And if the dog's been sick from Sunday, it's too late to wait until Friday. So we say to them, you have to get hold of the SPCA if our veterinarian's not available on a particular day. So,
and is there additional support now within the community if you know that, say, a more experienced handler, for example, lives down the road? Are they networking within their community when they know that their fellow dog owners? Do you see?
We haven't seen too much of that. There's not a lot of experienced dog handlers around, for one. Most of the guys who have got handling skills have come to Funda Nenja, which takes me to the next point, is that we've seen a lot of our senior guys go on to find employment elsewhere, in dog parlors, veterinary clinics. We had one go up to Joburg to do a canine with a bomb detection unit, security companies, that kind of thing. So, yeah, we've helped uplift those youngsters to go on and find employment. And some of them are still, years later, in the same job.
It's life-changing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really has helped them.
And from this initiative, obviously, there must be some stuff that spills into your own life and the things that you've come to recognize as critical things. And we were talking before we started about how you rescue all sorts of things.
Yes.
I love, obviously, the responsible ownership aspect of your scheme, teaching young children from a very young, impressionable age, where they're in a learning frame of mind, how to be good owners, but also that element of responsibility. And what you put in, you get out. I mean, these are the kind of things that I wish would spill into our lives. I have my own child, and I to try and get him to pick up his shoes and take them through is a mission. So, are there things that you've felt you've learned from what you're doing?
I think for me, the biggest eye-opener has been what we consider a bad life or a poor life for a dog in our situation is not as bad as it can get. We've seen far worse. And it always gets me on Facebook when you see people complaining about somebody's dog, and I keep thinking it's nowhere near as bad as some of the situations we've seen. So I think I've got a more balanced view of animal care, because some of those dogs in the township live a rough life. Only the strongest survive. They don't get mollycoddled. They don't get put under infrared lamps when they're puppies to pull them through. And that's kind of the way it should be. You don't want your really weak dogs breeding. Not that we promote breeding at all. But if they are going to breed, you want the toughest one because it's a hard life for them in the township. They're not mollycoddled and wrapped up in bed, and they don't all
Pocket
have
dogs.
blankets and warm beds. So it is tough. So I think I've learned to have a balanced view of animal care, and it's not. Yes, we want to save every dog we can, but it's not practical. Sometimes we do see puppies coming in with parvo, and there's nothing you can do. They're so far gone.
The resources as well to spill into that one
Correct.
individual versus the kind of costs involved.
And parvo is expensive, as you know, to treat. So we have pulled a few through. We do tend to have a ruling where if it's a Funda Nenja dog that's enrolled in our program, we will treat those at our cost. If the family can afford to pay, we do ask them to make a contribution. But if it's a community dog that comes to us and you can see it's not going to make it, we can't put money into that. That money would be better spent somewhere else, helping a few more dogs rather than
vaccinating or spaying.
Correct.
Resources.
Yeah.
So, I like the point you made that we live quite insular lives and don't always have sort of sight maybe of the bigger picture. But I also think you look at the average South African dog, and I'm not, I know the listeners here are in the same position as I am, so I've got to say I'm the same. And we leave for work, and our dogs sit behind the gate, and expected that's the life. Whereas
that's right.
Some of the benefit, obviously, of these community dogs is that at least they're involved and they're active and they're interacted with.
Yeah, they've got somebody at home most of the time. Yeah,
they've got company, and that is also very much.
It's huge. It's huge
massive
because
factor.
Emotional. The emotional state of the dog is so important. And a lot of those dogs too, they have company all day.
They're happy dogs.
They're happy dogs. And yes, some of them do roam on the streets, but those streets generally are quiet. It's not always a risk to them. But we don't like dogs to be roaming because poisoning is a major problem. People use a lot of rat poison. So but the community have learned that they need to keep their dogs contained on their property. So we do help with fencing as well.
So also education on not chaining, because I think that's
it's a huge problem, and it seems to be something that's been handed down through the generations that you just put a dog on a chain, and until we actually show them that it's not the right way to do it, they don't actually question it because it's the way it's always been done,
and it works.
It keeps the dog in one place. So that's part of Nomonde's job on her home visits, is to educate. There was a lady who came to our shop to buy something for her dog. She had 3 dogs, and they were all on chains. And I said to her, "Are these dogs chained at home?" And she said, "Yes." And I said to her, "Why are they chained?" And she said, "Oh, because people are scared of them to come into the property." So I gave her a quick little education about why it's not good to chain dogs. And she said to me, "Oh, I really didn't understand. I didn't realize that, but thank you for that." And she said, "I won't chain them." I said, "If people are scared to come in your yard, they mustn't come in your yard."
Yeah, exactly. They're there for purpose.
Yeah. So, it was nice to see her actually realize that it's not okay to chain the dogs. And she had just done it because everybody does it. But we are breaking that mindset, changing that mindset completely.
And is there ever times when your advice is not very well received?
Yes, we have had that. And those cases, if Nomonde goes to a home and the dog is on a chain and she's either not allowed access to the property, or she goes onto the property and meets some kind of resistance from the owners, we hand that over to the SPCA, because the inspectors are legally allowed to remove the dog if it's not taken care of. And that's why Nomonde is actually doing this inspector's course, so that she will have more of that power to be able to say to them, "Yeah, I'm giving you so many days to rectify this, and thereafter we'll take legal action."
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing for listeners to take note of. This is not you're going in there to act like police and remove dogs. This is really about providing an opportunity to correct some of the things that are a major problem. This is not just...
No, the education is the most important thing, because if you just remove a dog from a situation, that owner's not learning anything.
They just replace them.
It's going to get another dog and do the same thing. Yeah. But the education that you're giving them will last a lifetime. and it will be shared with others.
And like you say, you've seen the progression in terms
correct.
of the way in which it...
And we've heard so many cases where children have taught other children what they've learned at Funda Nenja. And that's why we base our whole program around children, because it's easier to change a child's point of view or perspective or mindset than an adult's. Adults are so set in their ways, especially the older community. You know, that's how it's always been done. That's how Granny did it. That's how my forefathers did it. That's the way I'm doing it. But the children are more adaptable. So we get in at grassroots level.
Absolutely, and it makes sense too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to lose the opportunity to talk about sort of the funding. So
Yes.
You ask for assistance in terms of donations.
Correct.
How do you, for example, I see Black Bobtail contribute food. What are the organizations that contribute to this in order for it to be sustainable?
So we have, just sort of on a smaller scale, we have the spa supermarkets, both Maryvale Spa and Hilton Quarry Spa. They donate fruit and juice every single Friday. They alternate between the two. So when the children arrive on a Friday, they get given a juice, and then when they go home, they get given some fruit, as well as a little bag of dog food for the dogs. So we have that support from them. Then the dog food, obviously, of every month from Bobtail through the RCL and Do More Foundation. We get funding from N3TC. We get funding from, I'm trying to think off the top of my head now. There's a lot that sort of come and go. We get lots of private donations from people, just sort of local people who donate every month. Some do once off. And then we've got our international funders who currently we're negotiating with Battersea in the UK. So we've been in negotiations with them for about a year. It's looking very promising.
Good.
I've actually got a workshop with them today, this afternoon. So
wonderful.
That's looking promising. But yeah, and then donations, goods in kind. People donate their second-hand kennels, hopefully not broken ones. We've had a few that a little worse for wear, but we take the second-hand kennels, and what we do is if we do a home visit and Nomonde sees that the people are really making an effort to do what we require, but they don't have adequate shelter, we'll donate one of our second-hand kennels to them as a reward and a thank you for doing what we've asked. People donate their second-hand collars and leads, harnesses, dog beds. Howick is very much a retirement community, so a lot of the elderly people who live in those retirement homes, when their last dog is passed on, they don't replace them. So we get given all their dogs' bowls and bedding and lovely brushes and everything. So
if people are wanting to donate, I mean, there's obviously the more resource you have, the more you can do.
Absolutely.
And I mean, there's still a lot to do, isn't there? This is not just...
our budget is about $1.5 million a year, just to run our organisation. But yeah, on our website, which is www.fundanenja.co.za, we've got various donation options. For international people, we've got Give and Gain, which is a very easy way to make a donation. And obviously, international funds converted give us
makes
a whole lot more money.
In rands.
Yes.
Goes a lot further.
It goes a long way. Yeah. And then locally, there's our, EFT into our bank account, but local people can also use Give and Gain if they want to. We did have a PayPal account, but for some reason PayPal is not working for us. We never got the last bit. I think there was about 4,000 Rand in there that we never ever got. So we don't use PayPal anymore. They asked for a lot of documentation, which we submitted, and still it's like a locked account. So we don't use PayPal anymore.
But you're very transparent about where the
100%.
The donations go. And you can see it. I think if people want visual representation, they can find the most incredible sort of videography of the setup.
Yes.
And, I mean, just looking at those children coming in on a Friday, it just gives me goosebumps.
They love it.
It's
lovely.
It's a brilliant initiative. I admire what you're doing. I totally support it.
You need to come and visit us.
I'm going to. I'm definitely going to. I could come and learn a few things about basic. I won't bring one of my dogs because they'll put me to shame.
Oh, no.
But,
I leave mine at home too.
Do you? But no, it's incredible. And the bonds that these kids now share with their dogs, that kind of sitting and their dogs kissing and hugging, so images that you wouldn't historically have seen.
Correct.
That bond that develops because there's... what you put in, you get out.
That's it. Absolutely. And for some of those kids, it's so important for them to have that. You know, a lot of them, if both parents are still in the household, because a lot of them are single parent households, or parents work away from home and the child lives with granny, there's not always a lot of love to go around. So, you know, the unconditional love they're getting from their dog is really special and important for them. And it teaches them, once the child has learnt about empathy and compassion, it changes their life forever.
Absolutely. The kind of relationships they have as adults.
They grow into more empathetic, that's the word, adults, and more compassionate. And it just grows from there.
Absolutely, and gives them a brighter future.
Correct.
I just love the development that you have.
Yeah, it sets them up for success going forward.
Learning with dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learning life.
And it can be tough when you first see them joining, you know, with a new dog or a new puppy, and their handling skills need a little bit of fine-tuning. And it can be really frustrating. We want them to learn quickly. You know, we can see they're being a bit rough with the dog. And it comes within a few weeks, you start to see that changing. And some obviously quicker than others.
But also they can see it. They're in an environment where it's demonstrated by kids that have been there for a while. So, I mean, they can see the changes visually.
And we only use positive reinforcement training. So there's no force allowed. And the instructors are all very quick to... If they see a child pulling the dog or pushing it down into a down position, they're very quick to say, no, we don't do that. You lure with the food and then reward when it goes into the position, or when it's following you nicely on lead, you're constantly rewarding the dog. So they learn that they can overcome problems without force.
Without fighting
and they
aggression.
Learn patience, So that form of training on its own, it plays a huge role in their development as a child going forward, because they learn gentle techniques to overcome problems.
Absolutely. And that you actually get a result from some of these training methods.
And the whole art of reward, because a lot of the kids don't get rewards. You know, even at school, if they do well, they kind of like, oh, well, you're supposed to have passed that test. You know, they don't get a well done or a thumbs up or a pat on the back. So it's showing them a new way of dealing with problems.
No, I love that. Thank you, Lisa. I mean, there's so much I know that we could continue to chat about, and I hope that we get the opportunity again. I'd love to come and actually witness the setup.
I would love to have
and contribute if I'm able to.
Absolutely.
But it's
Dr. Danny would love you to help in the vet clinic too.
Come and put
give
my
her a
skills
hand.
to use.
We often have CCS vets who come and help on Friday afternoons as well. So that helps Danny tremendously.
And for anybody who wants to contact you in terms of setting up, like you say, similar schemes.
Yes.
It's hard work, and I think
it is hard work.
But it's
worthwhile.
Very rewarding.
Hugely, yeah. And it's so needed throughout South Africa. There's so many areas where there's still so much abuse and neglect. And people are just ignorant when it comes to animal welfare, unfortunately. And they tend to just do what's always been done culturally. And until you show them that there's a better way to do it, they're not going to question what they're doing. So we have to show them that there is, yes, that's how you've always done it, but it's not necessarily the right way to do it. And we can show you a better way. And 90% of the time, they grab that opportunity and run with it.
Like you say, start with children.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They are our future.
They are our future. And it's changing the whole community from the ground up. So I think it's wonderful.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
As we wrap up another episode of the Pause and Effect podcast, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our guest, Lisa Button, for sharing her expertise and insights from Funda Nenja. Remember, the journey to bettering animal welfare begins with each one of us. If you found today's discussion valuable, don't hesitate to spread the word by liking, sharing, and commenting on this episode. And be sure to follow us for more captivating conversations about our beloved companions. Together, let's make a positive impact on the lives of animals everywhere. This is Dr. Cara signing off. But before you go, don't forget to give your pets a big hug from me. Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Cara.
Hi, Doc. It's Justin the Jack Rossi here, and boy am I itchy.
Are you on a hypoallergenic diet?
Hyper what now?
Changing to a special diet will really help. And Just for Pets have a massive range. And flea and tick medication, special shampoo.
Ooh, how quick can you get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Get it all to your door.
We have an exciting announcement to make. We are looking for guest speakers who are passionate about the pet industry and sponsors to support future episodes. Are you an expert in pet training, nutrition, or behavior? Maybe you're a veterinarian with insights to share, a pet store owner with unique experiences, or a pet product inventor. We want to hear from you. The Pause and Effect podcast is a platform for industry professionals like you to showcase your knowledge, experiences, and stories. As a guest speaker on our podcast, you'll have the opportunity to share valuable information, engage with our audience, and have your voice heard in the pet community. Whether you want to discuss training techniques, emerging pet care trends, or the importance of mental stimulation for pets, we want to feature you and your expertise. So, if you're passionate about pets and have something to say, we invite you to join us on an upcoming episode of the Pause and Effect podcast. But wait, that's not all. The Pause and Effect podcast is also seeking sponsors to support our mission of educating and entertaining pet lovers worldwide. By becoming a sponsor, you'll gain exposure to our engaged audience and have your brand associated with the love and care that we have for our four-legged friends. If you own a pet-related business, offer pet products or services, or simply want to align your brand with our pet-loving community, we'd love to partner with you. As a sponsor, your brand will be featured prominently in our episodes and our social media channels. It is a great opportunity to showcase your offerings to a dedicated audience of pet enthusiasts. So whether you're an expert in the pet industry looking to share your knowledge, or a business seeking to reach a pet-loving audience, we want to hear from you. To apply as a guest or to inquire about becoming a sponsor of the Pause and Effect podcast, please contact me at drkara@pauseandeffect.co.za. Get in touch and let's discuss the various opportunities. Thank you for joining us today. We can't wait to welcome our future guest speakers and sponsors to the Pause and Effect podcast. Remember, every episode is an opportunity to celebrate our four-legged friends.